All right, the next thing that we're going to focus on are tongue twisters. Tongue twisters are an excellent way to practice pronunciation, get your tongue moving, doing different sounds that may be challenging or difficult with different patterns. And it's just an overall excellent way to practice not only pronunciation but public speaking. Many people, such as famous public speakers, politicians, comedians, use tongue twisters as kind of a warm-up or a training. So this is something that you can also do whenever you're practicing or getting ready to practice pronunciation, to kind of warm up, to get your mouth moving, your tongue moving, all of that. And if there's a particular sound that you find difficult, a tongue twister can be a really good way to practice that sound in different patterns. So we're going to practice some of these tongue twisters. I'm going to first say it at a normal speed, and then I'll say it at a slower speed so that you can repeat after me. Okay, if you want to even read the tongue twister on your own first and record yourself, and then record yourself with me, like we did earlier with some other activities, you're more than welcome to. And remember, we're going to be using the same exact methods here, so anytime you hear a word that sounds different, that maybe you reverted back to one of those bad pronunciation habits, make sure to take note of that word and drill it. Repeat it over and over again. That's how we're going to break these bad habits. So let's start with some tongue twisters. Okay, like I said, first I'm going to say it at a normal pace, and then I'll slow it down so that you have a chance to practice with me. The first tongue twister, this is probably one of the most famous, well-known tongue twisters in English, and it's Peter Piper. So I'm sure you've heard of this one before. So let's listen first. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Okay, so we have lots of P sounds here, and this is great because we have P sounds with different vowel sounds, right? Peter, Piper, pick, peck. So we have lots of different vowel sounds, and we want to make sure that these vowel sounds are definitely different from each other, that picked is different from peck, and so on. That pepper is different from piper. So we want to pay attention to this P sound as well as the K sound that we're going back and forth between, and our vowel sounds. So let's try it together. I'm going to read one line, and then I'll give you a chance to repeat after me. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Excellent. So make sure you're recording with me so that you can make that comparison later. And if you want, go ahead and make a recording of you saying it individually. Again, a great way to practice these is by going through it slowly and then repeating it and picking up the speed each time, right? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Faster. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Faster. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, and see how fast you can do it. So work your way up speed-wise and see how fast you can read these tongue twisters. Don't forget to be recording yourself so that you can go back and listen to your pronunciation. This next tongue twister is personally my favorite one. This one is called Betty Botter. This is an excellent one also to practice your vowel sounds, as well as this T sound, because we're not pronouncing it as a soft T. It's what we would almost call a hard T or like a soft D. It's somewhere in between a T and a D, right? The same sound as in little. Here we have Betty and better, right? So that double T, it's not exactly making a D and it's not exactly making a T sound. It's somewhere in between. And we're going to make that sound by hitting our tongue on the roof of our mouth. Betty, D, 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 D. So it's not as hard as D because we're just tapping. D, 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 D. Right? A little bit softer than a hard D, D. Right? Because it's not Betty, it's Betty, Betty. Let's practice. So first I'm going to say it at a normal speed. If you want to read it on your own first as well, that's perfectly fine. Let's see. Betty bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better Betty bought a bit of better butter. That's my favorite tongue twister. Again, this one's an excellent one because we have that better, bitter, batter, Betty, botter. We have that soft D sound that we need to be making. So what we want to avoid is Betty bought some butter, right? So we don't really pronounce this double T like a T sound. We're gonna make that Betty, D, 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 right? Versus D, 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 or T, 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 T. It's between those two sounds. Okay, we also want to be very careful with our vowel sounds here. We want to make sure that butter and batter sound differently, as well as better and batter, and bitter and better. So we need to pay attention to these vowel sounds. Okay, let's practice this together now. So I'm going to read each line, and you're going to repeat after me. Betty bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better Betty bought a bit of better butter. Excellent. Something else that's interesting with this tongue twister is even when we say put, we're not really pronouncing that T like T. We're kind of pronouncing it like we're pronouncing the other T's because of the vowel sound that comes after. If I put it, not if I put it, if I put it. If I put it in my batter. Same thing with but a bit of, not but a bit of, but a bit of. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. But a bit of, right? So you want to practice those linking sounds as well. If I put it, and but a bit of. Excellent. So go back, review this one, record yourself, listen to your recording, listen to my voice, and then again, try to see how fast you can get this tongue twister. Let's look at one that's a little bit shorter here. This is also a very classic one in the United States. You may have heard this one before. It's a little bit shorter, quite a bit shorter. And we're focusing on our sh and s sounds. So let's listen first. She sells seashells by the seashore. Right? Pretty simple. If you try to do it fast, that's when it gets difficult. So let's do this one together. Repeat after me. She sells seashells by the seashore. So this one we can practice by getting faster and faster. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. See how fast you can get that. And we really want to hear the difference between the sh and s. Sh, s, sh, s, sh, s. It's a really good way to practice this too, going between those sounds. All right. Let's go to our next tongue twister here. This is a really good one, and this is a word that we've talked about before with can. Okay, so let's listen first, and then let's work on this one together. So this one is, can you can a can as a canner can a can? Can you can a can as a canner can a can? Can you hear the difference in the way that I say can in some of these situations? Let's listen again. Can you can a can as a canner can a can? So we're using this modal verb can, and then we're also talking about a can, right? Like a can of soda, a can of beans. So whenever I'm talking about the can, I'm pronouncing that an sound. Versus whenever I'm using this verb, it goes back to that kin sound. Can you can a can as a canner can a can? Can you can a can as a canner can a can? So let's try this one. I'm going to say this one slowly. Go ahead and repeat after me. Can you can a can as a canner can a can? Also notice my rhythm whenever I'm using the verb. Can you? Very together. Can you can a can as a canner can a can? So whenever I'm using this as a verb, it's very close together with the word that's following it. Can you can, and as a canner can. It sounds very weird. Yes. This is an excellent one to practice with that can. So remember, whenever we're using can in a sentence, it's usually going to be diminished. The vowel sound is going to be diminished into a kin sound. I can do it. Excellent. Let's go to our next one here. This was an excellent one. We're working with our k and p sounds. K, p, k, p, k, p. So, let's listen first. Give Papa a cup of proper coffee in a copper coffee cup. This one's a good one. So we're using this sound back here, k, 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 and then we're going forward to this sound, p, p, p. So again, we can isolate these two sounds in practice. K, p, k, p, k, p. Let's try this one together. Repeat after me. Give Papa a cup of proper coffee in a copper coffee cup. We also have some challenges here with coffee and copper. Right? So again, we're going from here to here, and then we have coffee and copper. Copper. Excellent job. Let's try one that's a little more difficult. We have a few different sounds here that we're going to work on. Let's listen first. Which switched the Swiss wrist watches? So we have some W, some S, and some Ch sounds. Let's listen one more time. Which switched the Swiss wrist watches? Ooh, that one's difficult. Okay, so here we have, like I said, the w sound, which, and then we have that combined, that blended sound, switched, switched, switched. Remember with this W sound, our lips are not going to vibrate, because if they vibrate, it's going to make a v, vich, vich, switched, right? We want to avoid that v sound. So our lips are not exactly 100% closed, but 99.999% closed. Witched. You can see a small opening here, and that's preventing my lips from vibrating. Witch. And then I'm pushing my lips out to make that wa sound. Which switch the Swiss wrist watches. So I'm going to say this one slowly. Go ahead and repeat after me and make sure to record yourself. Which switched the Swiss wrist watches? Excellent job. Be careful with those W's. Remember, if we're having issues with W's, let's isolate the sound and let's put it with different vowel sounds. Wi, wa, wa, wo, we. So just isolate those sounds and practice. Remember that our lips are not going to vibrate when we make this sound. All right, our next tongue twister. This one is also very, very popular, especially with kids. This one also practices our W sounds as well as this vowel sound and the vowel sound. So I'm going to say it at normal speed. We'll talk about it a little bit and then we'll practice together. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. It's a fun one. So again, we have a couple of things going on here. We have a lot of these wood sounds, would, could, that sound. And then we also have this ch, chuck, chuck, woodchuck, woodchuck. Okay, so we want to be careful with this W sound, that vowel sound, and the ch sound. Let's practice this one together. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. This one's very repetitive and can get very confusing very quickly. With this one, it would be good to break it down into smaller parts. For example, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So break it down into smaller pieces. Practice like that. Be mindful of these wood sounds. Remember, it's not wood, it's not wood, it's wood, wood, would, could, should. And it's a different sound than chuck, chuck. Excellent. So we have quite a few short ones as well. These ones are just as good to practice with. Some of them are focusing more on particular sounds, which is perfect. This one I really like, and it really helps with this ear sound, those R's and that vowel sound that comes before. Let's listen first. Near an ear, a nearer ear, a nearly eerie ear. This one's fun. So we have this ear sound. That's what's repeating here. Ear, ear. The hard one is nearer, nearer, nearer. This word is really similar to mirror, a mirror. Nearer, nearer, nearer. So we're pulling that tongue back to make that ear-er, ear-er, er. So our tongue is pulled back. It's kind of curved like this to make that sound. And we can feel our tongue touching our top teeth here. Let's practice together. Near an ear, a nearer ear, a nearly eerie ear. Let's break it down into smaller pieces. Near an ear, a nearer ear, a nearly eerie ear. Very nice. Excellent.